You must purpose in your heart to do what's right and never question why. Never count the cost, though everything seems lost. The price for doing right is sometimes high. Do right till the stars fall. Do right till the last call. Do right when there's no one else to stand by you. Do right when you're all alone. Do right though it's never known. Do right since you love the Lord. Do right, do right. Right is always right, and wrong is always wrong, and we must learn to separate the two. If you love the right, the Lord will give you light. So seek the right in everything you do. Do right till the stars fall. Do right till the last call. Do right when there's no one else to stand by you. Do right when you're all alone. Do right though it's never known. Do right since you love the Lord. Do right, do right. Well, that's what Joseph decided to do from the time he was very young. He decided and purposed in his heart that he would please God and please his parents. Have you made that choice in your life? I hope you have. Well, Joseph's brothers were jealous. Sometimes the price for doing right is sometimes high. And Joseph's brothers were jealous and hated him, and they planned to kill him. But they ended up selling him instead. And Joseph ended up down in Egypt. Never count the cost, though everything seems lost. Wow. Joseph is in Egypt and he gets sold. He gets sold as a slave to Potiphar. And everything was going good. Joseph decided, even as a slave, that he would do his best. He would please God. And he pleased Potiphar, and Potiphar made him over his whole household. And everything was going great until Potiphar's wife tried to get Joseph to sin. And Joseph told her no. He did not want to sin. How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He told her. How are you doing? Are you able to say no to sin? Ask God to help you. When sinners entice thee, don't give in. Say no. Say no. When sinners entice thee, don't give in. Say no, no, no. Say no to your friends who want you to sin. Say no to the devil who wants to win. When sinners entice thee, don't give in. Say no, no, no. Well, Potiphar's wife didn't like it that Joseph said no, and she lied to her husband about Joseph. And Potiphar got mad, and he threw Joseph in prison. Oh no! How can this be? In prison for doing right? Well, the Bible says in Genesis 39:21, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. So Joseph, God was blessing him even in the prison. You know, he made a choice. There's the keeper of the prison. He took care of things there. He made a choice that even though he was in prison, he was going to do right. And he'd be the best prisoner there. He would please the Lord. And he became such a good worker and trustworthy that the keeper of the prison made him his chief assistant and gave him the keys to the prison, and he was in charge of the whole prison and all the prisoners. Wow. The Lord was with Joseph, and that which he did, the Lord made to prosper. That means turn out good. So Joseph was in charge of everything because he did right. Well, one day they got 2 new prisoners in the jail. They were the king's baker and butler. The king had gotten mad, Pharaoh, and thrown him in prison. Well, one day Joseph could tell something was troubling them. Wherefore look ye so sadly? What's the problem? What's your trouble? Asked Joseph. They said, we both had a dream last night, and we don't know what the dreams mean. And Joseph said unto them, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, I pray thee. Well, in the chief butler's dream, there was a vine, and it had 3 branches, and grapes grew on the branches. And the butler took the grapes and squeezed the juice into a cup and gave the cup to the king, to Pharaoh. So Joseph explained the dream. He said, that means in 3 days, you're going to get your job back. You're going to get your freedom. Wow. And then he said, this part's really sad. He says, think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house, this prison. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When you are butler again, please mention me to the king, to Pharaoh. Well, then the chief baker told about his dream. And in his dream, there were 3 white baskets on top of his head. And in the top basket, there was some baked goods for Pharaoh. And then, all of a sudden, some birds came down and they ate up all the baked goods. And Joseph heard that dream, and he told them, well, that means in 3 days you shall be hanged, and the birds will eat you up. Oh, well, 3 days later, it was the King Pharaoh's birthday. And it happened on that day exactly like Joseph told them about their dreams. Wow. So the baker was hanged, and the butler got let out of prison and given his job back in the palace. But you know what it says next? But the chief butler forgot Joseph. Oh no, he didn't remember to tell Pharaoh about him. How disappointing for Joseph. But God had a plan for Joseph's life, and he has a plan for your life too. Joseph continued to trust God and obey him and do right, just like we should. Our disappointments are God's appointments. Well, 2 years later, Joseph's still in jail. And it says, God's going to work his plan now. Genesis chapter 41, verse 1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and he dreamed a dream, and Pharaoh got upset about his dream. He dreamed a dream, and he called all his wise men together to tell him what the dream meant. When he woke up, he was so upset, but they couldn't tell him. They couldn't remember. And then the chief butler remembered Joseph. So he came up to Pharaoh and he says, I remember when you were mad at the chief baker and me and you threw us into jail. He says, there was a man there and he told us our dreams and what they meant. And Genesis 41:14 says, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. Wow. And he quickly shaved himself and changed his clothes and came in unto Pharaoh. So Joseph is being called to go before the king. Woo. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can tell me the meaning of it. And I have heard say that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh the answer of peace. That was a brave thing for Joseph to say. Instead of making himself look most important, Joseph wanted to make God look important to Pharaoh. Joseph showed meekness, making God most special. Well, Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. In my dream, behold, I stood on the bank of a river, and out of the river came 7 fat cows, and they ate in a meadow. And then 7 thin cows came out, and they were sickly and skinny, and they ate up the fat cows, and yet they still looked sickly and skinny. And then I woke up. Then I went back to sleep again, and I had another dream, and there were 7 good ears of corn on one stalk. And then I saw 7 thin ears and bad ears of corn on another stalk. And the thin ears ate up the fat ears. And I've told this to all my wise men, and they don't know what it means. And then Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream is one. So the 2 dreams meant the same thing. And he said, God has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 fat cows and the 7 good ears of corn are 7 years. And the 7 thin cows and the 7 poor ears of corn are 7 years of famine, where no food will grow. And God is showing you what he is about to do. There will be 7 good years where lots of crops will grow. And then there will be 7 bad years where no food will grow. Because the dream was doubled, this thing will happen by God, and God will bring it shortly to pass. In other words, it's going to happen real soon. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man, discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. And he will save the food from the good years, so that there will be food during the bad years. And Pharaoh said, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Joseph, since God hath showed thee all this, thou shalt be over my house, and you will be second ruler in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh gave Joseph his ring, and he gave him a gold chain to put around his neck. And he gave him some goodly garments, some good clothes. Wow. And he gave him a chariot to ride in. And the people all yelled, bow the knee, as the chariot came by. Wow, God sure did have a plan, didn't he? For Joseph, what a plan it was to go from prison to the palace. I'm so glad Joseph was a godly person and who did right no matter what God had told him and where God had put him. He made right choices, didn't he? And he loved God. How are you doing where God has you in your life? Are you doing right no matter what happens? Are you trusting that God has a plan for you too? He does. You can trust him. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. We sure have a great God, don't we?